What's up, guys? How's it going? Today I just wanted to show you around my wrap job that I did in my car. I had my channel update video before, and it seemed like some of you were fairly interested in seeing what I did. So let's take a look. Yeah, so let's step outside and take a look. I guess I could maybe do a reveal of what car I have, and yeah, so this is what I'm driving these days. I think some of you can probably figure it out from there. Anyway, let's head outside and see what we got. So, originally it was black, like this. And now, it is a matte metallic silver. And it's kind of a cloudy day today, so it's not going to be the best footage. Let's just take a step back here, look around. I like the way it looks with the silver tail lights. I'm going to get some silver side markers to really finish it. And oh man, so this is a panel I need to redo. I'll explain later. I drove it about 300 miles over the weekend, so that's why I got bug splatters and shit all over it. Getting some clear front markers, and it should look good. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. Let's take a look at the interior again. You can see I got the black behind. Okay, so yeah, here we got it. Manual transmission, premium audio, got all the goodies. So anyway, that's my car. Stay tuned if you'd like to watch a very long slideshow about how I changed my car from a black car to this beautiful matte metallic silver color. Yeah, it was quite a process, and I'll go over that more here in a few seconds. Okay, so people always ask, how much it costs, what do you need, what do you do? So the samples, these were some samples that I had purchased. They were about $2 a piece on Amazon. I actually got my 2 different rolls of wrap from a site called cheetahwrap.com. They had the cheapest vinyls, and so that's where I ordered it from. You want to make sure you don't use some knockoff weird Chinese stuff. So anyway, I had like a whole bunch of different colors. Avery matte brilliant blue is one I was looking at. Blaze orange matte metallic, one I was definitely considering. But in the end, it came down to these two. This one was was called Satin Canyon Copper. Very, very cool satiny coppery finish on this one. And the reason why I went with the Avery instead is that I heard it was a lot easier to install than the 3M. So that's what I did. So maybe someday I'll go with that. I think it would still be a really, really cool color. These others didn't really look as nice in person. This was like caramel luster, and this was matte copper. It's 2 brown. This is 2 I don't know what. And this one was a matte emerald green, which kind of looks not quite green enough, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, this is the matte metallic silver. Matte silver metallic, it's called. Looks amazing. Anyway, in order to debadge your car, these are some things you're going to need. You're going to need some fishing line. You need some Goo Gone. And you're going to need this heat gun, which I used a ton for this whole car wrapping process. This here is called 3M's press in place. It makes reinstalling your emblems insanely easy. You basically take this off, hold the emblem against it, and then slowly peel it off, and it's got this goo on the back, and then you just basically hold the emblems back on. So anyway, that's what I used for that. This right here, altogether, this was actually the most expensive thing. It was like $30, but I have enough adhesive here to do probably 50 cars worth of emblems. So anyway, if anyone needs their emblem reapplied, hit me up. Glue gun, get the automotive kind, and fishing line. These were like $2 a piece. So anyway, onto the wrapping. What you need for that. These were just some of the most useful things. I obviously used all the tools at my disposal that I had. My personal wrap that I did not use a car lift, and I did not remove very many pieces of the car. The more stuff you can remove easily from your car, the better, as it's extremely difficult to make it tucked in neatly to the edges and the corners when your headlights and things like that are still attached to the car. So anyway, here's some basic stuff you will need. All in all, like all of this stuff was probably $200 all in all, and I could probably could have got it cheaper somewhere, but this is my first time buying all this stuff, so I just got it all from Amazon. I'll provide links in the bottom. I possibly can. So if you're interested in doing this yourself, hit them up. This right here is a vinyl cutter. I initially didn't use this, but I found that cutting these gigantic sheets of vinyls is extremely difficult just using the regular old 30-degree cutter. So this, you just pop it on and slide it right across. It works like a charm. Would highly recommend that. It was definitely a lifesaver later on. Magnets, if your car is magnetic. The only part of my car that was magnetic was the A-pillar, but if you have an older car that's not all aluminum bodied, these are extremely helpful for holding things in place, so you can stretch and things like that. So here's a 30-degree angle cutter, and this is your trimming tool for the very small parts. Basically, anytime you're trimming in great detail, that's what you're going to use, and you're going to use a lot of blades. You're going to pop it off every 2 or 3 cuts, so it's as clean as possible. So, buy yourself a pack of these 50 Japanese blades like I did. You're definitely going to need some non-adhesive, not super strong adhesive. Just get some blue painter's tape. That's what it's called. You need to put that on opposite edges, areas you don't want the vinyl to stick to, things like that. These right here, this is a set of Micro Squeegees. These were insanely useful. I did not have these at the start. I really wish I did. About halfway through the project I had them, but anyway, these get into these tight little crevices and cracks and allow you to tuck things into tight areas, and they were insanely helpful. This thing was like, I don't know, 10 or 12 bucks, worth every penny. Some wrap gloves. These were not quite as needed, but for applications, you can use your fingers to get in areas that your blue squeegee or your gold squeegee, which is basically a harder version of the blue squeegee. The blues are fairly flexible. Anyway, you're going to need those. Definitely going to need some knifeless tape. This was a lifesaver as well. I can't imagine how hard it was to wrap cars before without cutting on the vehicle. But this is amazing, just amazing stuff. I used monkey strips buffers. I got that idea from another channel. They are amazing. The ones that come with these are crap. They were kind of scratching up the finish and just weren't very good. And then a point and shoot thermometer. I didn't really use that as much as I probably should have. But anyway, you just want to make sure that the surface you're applying the wrap to is between 60 and 80 degrees. So something like this where you can instantly determine that is extremely useful. So in addition to the heat gun and a bottle of isopropyl alcohol, which I just put into an old spray bottle, those were all the tools that I needed. So anyway, moving on to how the whole process went. Okay, so here's a before picture, nice and shiny and black and beautiful. You obviously want to get it as cleaned as well as you possibly can to remove any dust, any contaminants, any dirt, any sort of thing that would show up underneath the wrap. Okay, the first part I decided to tackle was the roof. I figured that would be the easiest part to do. Basically, you want to lay knifeless tape in the creases between the pillars and the roof itself. That makes your life very, very easy. For my particular car, you can actually lift up the hatch to trim the backside portion. The piece itself is actually relatively flat, so it was very simple to apply. The finishing where you tuck it under the rubber in the windshield was a little bit more difficult, but for the first piece, it turned out pretty well. We did have to do 2 attempts, but other than that, it was pretty straightforward. Okay, the next part was the hood. I obviously removed the hood louvers, and that made my life a little bit easier. This piece also took 2 attempts. I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was. There was a bit of bunching, and at this point of the process, I had not really learned how to use the heat gun to address that issue. Obviously, I had to remove my hood, the logo, the wings on the hood. That was very simple. You just take a heat gun, heat it up, rub your fishing line behind it to kind of saw it off, and use the Goo Gone to clean up the rest of it. The most difficult part of this was definitely the lower right and left sides and the corners. Basically, it would start to bunch up because of the excess material. Like I said, at this point of the project, I had not quite figured out how to address that with the heat gun, and this particular panel is one that I am definitely going to redo, and you will see why shortly. Next up are the doors. These were pretty simple. In order to basically remove the top trim, you can actually just pull it right off. So that allowed the simple removal of that, which allowed me to tuck the material in behind it. The difficult part for the doors was the fact that they kind of slope upwards. This was a challenge as I didn't remove the mirror stalks or anything like that, so you kind of had to have extra material underneath the mirror stalks. And then cutting around the doors is relatively simple. I did not do a very good job on the passenger side door. The driver's side door looks a lot better. Okay, here's the trunk. This part was a total chore. Took me a really long time, about 4.5 hours just to do this piece. That little wrinkly section you saw there, that took about an hour alone. The issue is, I was very unfamiliar with how to stretch the material and get it over these crazy curvy parts, and then it would also bunch up at the end. But overall, I was pretty pleased with how it turned out, and it's definitely passable. You can see in the sun a bit of the parts where I had stretched the film too much, and so this is one of the panels that I definitely want to reapply in the future. So that's what I'm going to do. The next piece I did was the side skirts. You can see a picture of me tucking in the material underneath the weather stripping. Didn't need to remove that or anything, which was nice. The side skirts were surprisingly easy to do. I just put a piece of knifeless tape underneath the car to have a nice clean, even cut underneath. And that was pretty much it. So that was a fairly simple piece, and I don't need to redo it. And it only took me 1 try, so this is kind of progress going forward. So there's a close-up of the passenger side door. As you can see, it's the keyhole's a little bit messed up, so I plan on redoing that panel someday. It's just it's not perfect, so I got to fix it. Okay, so here I am laying down some knifeless tape to do some inlays around the front bumper portion. These are important to do because the film won't necessarily stretch deep into the deep as it needs to go. So you can do these inlays, and there'll be a small seam, but it's practically not even noticeable. I did some also on the side strakes. If you have the opportunity to remove those, you'll have a much easier time. But I just decided to do inlays on them as well, since I wasn't planning on removing them. Here we have the side mirrors, which are a total chore. Oh my goodness, I struggled with these forever. Took dozens of attempts to try to get them to where they're at. I'm not happy with them still. I tried doing them in one piece like a pro, but I just can't. They're too curved. And just imagine wrapping a basketball with a sticker without wrinkling the edges, and that's kind of what it's like to wrap a mirror. So after I take my car to the shop here, I'm probably going to do it in two pieces, which, you know, I'll have a seam on the inside and you won't be able to notice, but it'll last a heck of a lot longer. So that's my plan for that. Here you see I was wrapping the interior of the blades of the lights. They were really easy to do, not much to talk about here. So this part nearly ended my idea of wrapping my car. It took me 5 attempts to do this left fender panel. Extremely difficult. It's so curvy. The fenders flare out really far, and it turns and it bends and it curves, and anyone who's ever wrapped a car knows that that is a very difficult thing to navigate and not have wrinkles and overstretching and things like that. But eventually, after wasting nearly 30 feet of a 75-foot roll of material, I finally got it all finished. So I'm extremely proud to have done that particular fender panel, and as you can see, it looks pretty good even with the inlays on the strakes. Here's the other side sill. This one also went on very easily. For some reason it was one of the easiest parts of the whole car, so that's that. Did the same thing as the other side. Okay, so this is the biggest piece, 115 inches of material. It's the rear quarter panel piece. It obviously has that whole pillar piece, including the piece that goes all the way back to the rear of the car. So anyway, you want to tape off all the parts that you're not having done. This helps you have a better edge to cut against, and it also doesn't stick very well. So anyway, get your piece real clean and get it going and nice and easy. You know, you start from the rear fender and then work your way up and over. You want to do the pillar piece last. That's the most flexible, easy piece to do. So yeah, it's very rounded in the back, but for some reason, as opposed to the front quarter panel, I really didn't have any issues at all with this particular piece. And with that one being done, it's starting to take shape. So the driver's side fender was not as bad, obviously, with the experience of doing it 5 times before. I had certainly learned my lesson, and finally figured out how to get the heat gun working properly and everything together to make it look really good. So there's a view from the top, and it looks really nice. So next up is the other quarter panel on the bumpers, and then we're done. So one of the last big pieces here was the driver's side quarter panel. Once again, it wasn't that tough. The only thing different from the other side is that this one has a gas cap on it. So basically I just went over it and then cut out accordingly. The gas cap itself is relatively easy to wrap. It's curved slightly, but you just cut around it and get in there, and it was pretty much a very simple thing to do. Tucking it into the weather stripping along the doors was simple, and overall that panel, I was pretty shocked that was one of the easier ones to complete. So bumper, on the other hand, that's another story. So the rear bumper was probably the toughest piece. I don't know, it's kind of a tie between that and the front fender, but anyway, there's this horrible piece underneath you got to get under, and there's the exhaust tips and just so many different curves and bends, and it was just a nightmare. So if you do this to your Aston Martin, you would be very, very, very wise to remove the bumper, remove all the lights, remove the exhaust, get everything out and done. But I still somehow miraculously managed to get it completed, and it looks pretty fantastic overall. I mean, I'm very pleased with the way it came out, and at this point I'm pretty much an expert at using this particular film, and it's coming out really good. So here you see a bumper inlay. I did one on the top, and then I also did 2 others around the edges. If I were to do it again, I would probably do the edge inlays all the way across the front. You'll see here that I kind of stopped them short. I would use that body line along the front to just do it all the way across, but it looks fine. You can't notice it at all. I mean, there is a small seam there. So anyway, you stretch it across the front and cut everything out. And this bumper, the front bumper here, was actually really simple. It was relatively flat, and since I did all the inlays beforehand, it made my life so much easier. So pretty straightforward getting that particular piece done. It was not difficult at all. And at this point, you know, I was pretty comfortable with my ability to wrap. So you can see the seams there. Like I said, barely noticeable. So that's it. That's the finished product. The lighting in my garage is like that of an incandescent. They're LED lights, so it looks kind of beige from the pictures, but in the actual sunlight, you can see that it's a beautiful silvery matte, almost white shiny. I don't know, it looks great. I could not possibly be happier with how it turned out. As soon as I get the panels that aren't up to my 100% perfect standard redone, it's going to be even better. So thank you so much for watching, if you're still watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I love answering questions about this project, as it pretty much consumed my life all winter long. So again, thank you, and I'll see you guys soon.